Hello and welcome to the TRILUX Academy. My name's Helen Looms.
And I'm Gareth Quarterly.
And this presentation looking at Human Centric Lighting within a retail application. So in this video we want to present our ideas about what HCL is and our findings from a case study that was held in Germany.
This is about the human being in the centre of a holistic lighting approach.
So we know lighting has an effect, a great effect within a retail environment. And now we have this new term, Human Centric Lighting, which is known by lots of other names. It could be integrative lighting, it could be circadian lighting, but we really have to define what we mean by this. And ZVI have provided us with a nice definition. It provides targeted and long-term support for people's health, their well-being and performance ability by means of holistic planning and implementation of the visual, biological and emotional effects of lighting. So really we're bringing the human to the centre of everything, which is what we've always done with lighting. So we mustn't forget about the other stuff just because we've now got this new capability of trying to affect our non-visual responses. So let's look at each of these aspects individually. We've got the visual effect, which is the physiological segment of our eye,
which comprises of the adaptation of the eye to change lighting conditions, aspects of perception, attention and orientation of light, and setting highlights with specific designed luminaires and or customized solutions as an eye catcher.
And it's those highlights that are really going to draw the customer's attention.
Correct.
So there's also this non-visual effect, and this is the newest information that we have, how light re-entrains our circadian rhythms. So we need light to bring us back into our 24-hour cycle, and it's this non-visual effect that we must really define.
Yeah, this takes into account the natural course of the sun and reproduces it within the internal space. It's also about having the right light at the right time, which is clearly decisive in supporting the human being's rhythm.
Absolutely. It's all to do with that 24-hour cycle, rethinking about what's happening outside, what do we naturally need, but then we can take it to another level. This is the emotional response, and we all know we have an emotional response to lighting.
Absolutely.
We love a sunset. We can really feel the power of a sunny day.
Yeah.
So how can we create that emotion within a retail environment to provide that excitement that makes somebody want to buy something? When does it look beautiful? When do we really enhance the customer experience?
But from an emotional perspective, it's all about also recreating the mood within that space, in particular in restaurants, making people feel warmer, more comfortable, and also in a retail environment, having people feel more comfortable walking around the space.
The visual effects we just mentioned will have an immediate impact on how we perceive a retail space, and a great deal of this will depend on how the light source represents colour. We've all taken a garment close to a window to try and assess the true colour under daylight, but we are now able to finely tune LED light sources to give a variety of effects, and this can be really used well within retail. Bread will look appetising under a warm colour, which would definitely make fish look old. So we need to use the correct type of colour reproduction for each application. How we describe this and then how we specify the effect that we want can be challenging. To explain this further, the colour rendering index is commonly used to describe which colours or wavelengths make up the white light that we see. So it tests colours under the proposed light source and compares them to a standard light source. Daylight, of course, is the perfect light source, but practicalities mean that we will use a black body radiator or even an incandescent lamp, depending on the colour temperature of the lamp that we're testing. CRI only tests 8 colour samples, and these do not include red, which is a very important colour to us if we think about our skin tone even. There are also an additional 6 colour samples that can be used in the RA14 version. So it's still CRI, but with 14 colour tests, and that is a little bit better. But now we've got new systems that are being evaluated, and how detailed you need to get will depend upon your project. Well Building Standard is asking for R9, which is the red one, under any CRI 8 testing regimes. So at least that is moving forward. We'll at least get the red. Now we have TM30, which is a much more detailed matrix. It classifies 99 colours, and here it has two different criteria for explaining the colour. So RF is the fidelity index, and that's similar to CRI, and RG is the gamut index, and that provides information about the saturation of the colour. And it also uses a colour vector graphic, which gives a much better representation of the hue and saturation relevant to the tested light source. These graphs show the value of the individual CRI colours for 3 different LED sources. All are good LED sources, but the RA, or the average of what you can see above, does not give you any of this information. You can see that the RA numbers range from RA83 to RA94 and then RA96. If you compare the 94 and the 96, they're both pretty good in all colours, but the 94 one is lower down on the reds. So you're going to have a very different effect of a red colour under each of these 3 white LED sources. We are now really trying to set the benchmark higher and not be content with the previous standard. Why measure only with 8 colours when we can do it with 99 colours? And all of them have one purpose: optimum light in scenes at the point of sale by means of perfect colour rendering, high brilliance and good depth of field. It really pays to use good colour rendering within a retail environment. TM30 uses these 2 different ways of describing the colour, fidelity and gamut. Fidelity is the trueness of a colour, like taking that garment to the shop window to get a true impression of the colour. So it has a closer relationship to the CRI index. As a rule, the fidelity index is a little bit lower than your usual CRI average number. So those 3 light sources that we looked at previously are now shown here with the 99 colours. And it gives you even more detail. You can see where the colours are strong and where they're weak. But moving on to the gamut, which gives us that other element of colour, which is the saturation. Does the colour look dull or does it pop out? The gamut level could be greater than daylight, and that would really make a colour sing. So if a colour under daylight just looks average and you use it under a light source that has a higher gamut level, it can make it look really exciting. The diagram that's used here has the reference source as the circle, the white circle, and the source being tested moves in and out of this white circle depending on whether the wavelength is showing you a higher level or a lower level. Our 3 light sources again, but now you can easily see where one source will have a different effect to another. Under a standard 3000K LED, we expect greens and some blues to be a bit dull, but the brilliant colour LED gives a warm appearance but really allows those reds and blues to look very, very intense, which is ultimately the aim in a lot of retail installations. So coming back to human-centric lighting, we've got our visual effect, the non-visual effect, and the emotional response. And this can have a different benefit for different people within that retail environment.
Absolutely.
So we've got the customers, we've got the employees, and the company itself.
From the perspective of the customers, they obviously enjoy the atmosphere more, feel more comfortable walking around there, and just enjoy the experience much more. From an employee's perspective, I think they feel more comfortable. There's more health and well-being within the workplace.
They're there for a much longer period of time.
Absolutely.
They're the ones that are really going to appreciate it.
Feel the impact of that,
Yes.
absolutely. From a company perspective, customers are in there longer. Feasibly, they're spending more money. Employees are much more engaged in the workplace, less time off sick, and generally a lot happier in their workplace as well, which naturally comes across to the customers.
Yes, and this case study really does show the benefit to the company. And when you see results like this, it starts to be a much more positive reason for looking at the lighting in such a great detail.
Absolutely. The added value of HCL has long been researched and documented in lighting, in particular in office and health and even education sectors. However, I do feel it's been somewhat missing in retail.
I think a proper study has been missing. There's lots of people that have anecdotally used it, and we know lighting has been used for a long time to bring attention to certain things, but to do a well documented and researched piece of work has not happened before.
So as the experts in lighting, and in particular retail lighting, we decided to try and carry out such scientific research. So around 2016, which ended in 2017, we carried out 2 projects within Edeka supermarkets in Germany, both in the same city, both very similar characteristics in regards to footfall, location, demographic of people attending the store, and obviously because they were in the same city, the weather conditions and everything else was the same impact on each store at the time. We carried out this survey over 8 months. This gave us a good level of time to actually measure what the differences were and if there were any spikes or any pitfalls within this period. So we looked at this in 3 particular sections. We talked to the customer, we talked to the staff in the retailer, but we also talked to the retailer themselves, in specific with the customer, what their dwell time was, how they felt within the store, and how comfortable they felt walking around the store, coming in and out of the store from the street. Also the employee, how they felt for a long period in that store. Did they feel energized leaving the store at the end of the session? And also the retailer, did it actually impact at the cash register?
Yeah. If you get a positive result like that, you know. And then there's the softer things. Is there any more sick time being taken or less sick time? Absenteeism, you know, whether people are being punctual, whether they enjoy being at work. All of these are big benefits to the retailer.
Absolutely.
So what sort of data were you collecting?
We collected different data from different parts of the retailer. So from the employees' perspective, we talked to them about how they slept at night, how they felt when they were in work. We also talked to the retailer about what was the sick time taken. Was there any impact upon sick time taken within the retailer? We also talked to the customers themselves. We talked to the customers when they came into the retailer. We talked to the customers at the checkout area, how they felt, how long they stayed in store. And of this, it was 329 customers we surveyed.
That's a really good number.
Yeah, and 39 employees took part in the case study also.
So this is fairly robust data. We know we can trust a lot of it, and especially as it was over those
such a long
8
period.
months, done on 3 different occasions. It's giving you good quality data.
Absolutely. First time in a retailer, I believe, we've had this level of commitment also from the retailer to take part into this type of survey. On the diagram shown at the moment, you can see the entrance area. This is the welcoming area of the supermarket, or the area of the first impression. Attraction and long distance effect are important and must be taken into account. Interest is to be aroused and excitement generated. The customer is at the same time to be guided as gently as possible into the interior.
So, because we know of the non-visual responses of the eye, this circadian lighting is going to relate back to the time of day. So it's making sure that their body is still working in sync with how it was intended to work, and therefore they feel more comfortable, more alert, more energized during the middle of the day. And maybe at the end of the day they might feel a little bit more relaxed as well.
The emotional effect is vitally important here as well. So when you're approaching the store, it's made more comfortable and easier by the transition from external to internal. People feel more comfortable, safer walking into the space. So the circadian lighting also matches then the internal to the external, relaxing a lot easier and helping people activate in the day. And in this way, customers are guided gently into the store at any time of the day.
So the goals of this lighting at the entrance is so that people can see, it's guiding them to the right place, and it's also giving that level of security as well. It makes them safe.
Absolutely. The emotional effect, obviously, is that people feel much more comfortable from the transition externally into internally in the store, more likely to make that transition to walk into the store, and ultimately spend more time in the store as well.
So it's the effect of daylight, it's the same, it's going in. So we're working with their natural rhythms. They will automatically feel more at ease, more comfortable.
Absolutely. Of the two stores in the case study, the first store was a HCL store, the second store was a benchmark store.
Yeah.
As you can see on the slide, it shows a 33% improvement.
That's a good number.
On the
really
HCL store in the health and well-being and the feeling of the store versus the static benchmark store.
Okay, it's great that you have that comparison. What happens when you've improved the lighting and what happens when again you've improved the lighting but just with a different type of lighting.
It created a much more welcoming store.
So the other area that we looked at was the checkout area, and this is a really important point of contact between the employees and the customers. It's distinguished because there's a lot of daylight there, so it's nice that we've got the natural daylight coming into the store, but we need to relate our internal electric lighting to that daylight. It also is very important that the colour temperature and the light levels are following this natural course of daylight. The goals in this area are therefore to think about the visual effect, and because it's such a large target group, we've got to think about a wide range of needs.
We also have to take into account the different people going to the different stores at the different times of the day, different age ranges, different times of the week, also the different requirements of those different age ranges of people.
We all have such different lighting requirements, and we also have to take into account the time of year as well. Lighting levels outside are going to be very different. So all of this daylight we've got coming in, it's important that we utilise it, but also that we work with it.
And don't forget, we have to take into account energy efficiency in the store also.
Yeah, if we've got free daylight coming in, we need to make sure our electric light is dimming down, responding to that. So we are making the most use of all of our energy. But we need to make this area feel bright and vibrant. This is the area where the employees are having proper contact with the customer. They are communicating. They have to make that customer feel really welcome and make sure that the whole purpose of the shopping experience is communicated well.
Absolutely, but also the emotional effect is creating a natural environment for the customers that experience a really natural and pleasant place to shop.
So let's look at some more results, but this time from the employee point of view.
We surveyed two areas within the store for the two stores. We surveyed the early shift and the late shift. Activation and relaxation of the employees at the cash desks on the early and late shifts were surveyed several times in the course of the day in the form of daytime sleepiness at all measuring times. Higher values in this case indicate less activation. Results of the case study on activation and relaxation show that in the HCL supermarket, employees are more activated during the daytime and markedly more relaxed towards the evening. On the early shift, employees in the HCL supermarket show constantly low fatigue values and are more activated. In a reference supermarket, employees showed a marked drop in activation towards the end of the shift. On the late shift, the employees in the HCL supermarkets are first of all more activated due to the influence of the lighting, And at the end of the shift, the lighting does, however, contribute to relaxation, and a marked difference between the two supermarkets can be recognised.
This again is exciting information. There's a lot going on here that really helps the employees during the course of their working day.
When we received the results of the SEEP quality survey, we found that there was a marked difference between the 4 parts of the year that we took this.
Okay.
Within the winter parts of the year, there was a massive difference in the study.
You would expect that. There's a lot of daylight coming into these stores, so in the summer they're going to get the beneficial effects, the very natural beneficial effects of the daylight. In the winter that isn't there. So it's really good news that we can start to supplement that a little bit and make people sleep better.
The results of the case study in regards to sick days showed a 35% reduction in absent days taken by employees.
That's a lot.
Für mich in der Kasse ist das hier besonders gut für meine Augen. Also dadurch, dass ich Brillenträgerin bin, läuft das Kassieren einfacher. Es ist hell, es ist schön, es macht einen glücklich.
One of the interesting areas that they studied with regard to human centric lighting was the fruit and vegetable areas. We've long known that we use specific lighting for bread, for fish and for meat, but the fruit and vegetables are very particular areas where you want the lighting to look natural. So it was interesting to see the success of these lights and how people now perceive the vegetables in a very different way to what they did before.
Alles sehr schön beleuchtet. Ob Gemüseabteilung wunderbar und auch überhaupt alles. Der Laden, der ist so wunderschön geworden. Also da kann man nur noch staunen. Wir kaufen alles hier. Mein Mann, der sagt denen schon immer, ach, gehst wieder zu deinem Edeka?
In regards to why they liked this store, we looked at 5 criteria for measuring on the HCL store and the standard store. We looked at product, service, atmosphere, orientation and getting there. And within the HCL store, the standout areas were service and atmosphere, scored way in excess of the standardised store with the HCL lighting.
It's exactly what you want to happen, isn't it?
35% increase on the better atmosphere within the store and a 23% increase in the service level.
Now I hear you analysed the internal video footage to see how long people stayed within the store.
We did also. Of the video analysis, it actually analysed 681 customers.
Wow.
And it showed a 21% increase in dwell time in the HCL store versus the standardised store, which equated to around about 18 minutes longer per person in store.
Man unterhält sich ja auch viel mit Kunden und durchweg höre ich eigentlich nur Positives, dass sie den Markt als sehr angenehm empfinden, wenn sie den betreten. Helligkeit hat für mich was mit Freude, gute Laune, Wohlsein zu tun und es ist eben angenehm.
So now we come to the crucial point. Are we going to increase sales by such clever use of lighting?
Unfortunately, it does always come down, or seems to come down to that point. And yes, in this regard, the overall store grew by 12% sales over the comparison store.
That's 12%.
12%.
That's really good.
Yeah, different categories were larger than others, but yeah, 12% increase overall for the store.
And did some areas have a larger increase because maybe the lighting is more relevant with those products?
I think in particular fruit and vegetables and those type of areas where we talked about the colour rendition and the look and feel and the appearance of the product, yes, those did increase generally more, where you could influence the look of the product.
It does come down to what those goods look like. If a tomato looks a beautiful red, you're going to buy it, you know.
Agreed, yes.
Yeah, it's very powerful stuff.
It is.
No wonder the owner of this supermarket was pleased with these results, but let's listen to him. This is Thomas Cooper, who owns the supermarket.
Früher hat man ja gesagt, mit Neonröhren hatte man, 5.000, 6.000 Kelvin, ist reingekommen und oh, ja, es musste alles sehr hell sein. Man geht da ja heute von ab, dass man eben sagt, man hat ein Licht, was eben mehr die Ware beleuchtet und ein dezenteres Licht. Und wir haben dadurch einen Umsatzplus erreicht, was teilweise auf das Licht zurückzuführen ist, von 35%.
So this case study really has got dramatic results, and you can review the whole data and the whole white paper on the Octalight website, should you wish to. I think it's going to be interesting how we can push this further. How will people utilise this within more supermarkets? These results are so positive that it's almost a no-brainer. Why would you not do it?
They are very clearly good results. It does come down to the individual applications,
Yes.
Absolutely by store, whether the demographic of your store and what your store identity is. And of course, we'd be more than happy to talk to any companies or any individuals out there who would like to learn more about this, but also see how this could help them within their retail environment.
Yes, yes. We're always wanting to learn more, definitely. But thank you very much for listening to us, and if you want any more information, please look at the TRILUX website or the Octalight website. Contact us directly.